by one. But I didn't say it because there's other student to give them chance. But the thing that didn't went well, I guess, because I know this problem, so I know how to solve it. But I know like if the other student was there, they're gonna get confused, because like we was going from this the area thing to the pattern thing, and before the pattern we went to the what is algebra tiles mean.
So
It can make the student confused. Are we in the thing?
Yes.
Okay, so the students are back now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so for the students, I want to thank you all for agreeing to do this with us today. We want to get your feedback. We want to know what was that experience like for you. Just tell us that. And again, you don't have to come off mute. If you want to share it in the chat, you can. But this is like, we want real feedback. Just tell us, how did that feel for you? What came up? I'll just leave it at that.
So Kira, Fatima was making a really good point right before we came back. So I don't know, Fatima, are you comfortable sharing right now what you were saying?
Yes, I am comfortable. Okay, so should I say it?
Yep, you can go ahead.
So for me, it was very engaging and it was very great. But I knew like how to do this equation, because I did that with Mr. Mills, the first thing we did in this year, and that's why I knew like it's gonna increase by one and everything. But I didn't say it because I wanted to give chance to the other students. But then the thing that didn't went well was when we was saying the teachers was explaining, like we were going from one topic to other topic. For example, what does algebra tile mean, or we're going to the patterns from the area thing. So I think that in this case, the student can get confused, and even though it seems so easy, but they're gonna get confused. I didn't get confused because I knew how to do it, so I was in track. But I'm sure like the student will get confused in this point. And for me, I feel like most of the teachers maybe don't realize that they know how to solve the a problem, like algebra problems or all kind of problems, because they taught those. But the student, they're learning it, and sometimes the teacher think the student just need explanation, but they have the idea. But actually they don't. So they need all steps. And if we go like from one topic to other topic, it might make really confusing. So yeah, but it was great. Thank you.
All right, thank you for sharing it. That was a good, great point. Let's see, Asia, go ahead.
Hey, Kiera, it's Aja.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aja.
She fixed it for us.
Okay. Well, I really appreciated this lesson. It was pretty easy to understand and get along with. Because most people, since I'm currently in pre-calc, so I had to skip Algebra 2, and my Algebra 1 was virtual, so, I didn't really get a chance to understand it as deeply as I could, and just the way that it was being explained, it was really easy to understand and to be able to sit down and know. That was like a really good refresher, and I really liked how the teachers interacted with us. They made sure to listen to us, see what we thought the problems were, and then develop onto our ideas. Like if we were to bring up a formula or say something, they wouldn't just shoot it down and then move on. They would get that idea, understand what we were trying to say with that idea, and then develop onto it. And I think that's something that a lot of teachers kind of don't do. Some teachers just, you'll bring up an idea, they'll say, okay, and then just move on to something else completely, and it'll just make the student feel as though their idea was less important because of the teacher just trying to shoot past it, just trying to get the lesson done. So yeah, it really reminded me of just how my teacher, Miss Baker, actually not her name, Miss Prudhomme, I think, how she teaches. She makes sure that everybody gets their chance to say what they need to say, and I just really appreciated that in that lesson.
That's great. Thank you for that. Do any of the other students, either Curtis or Anaya, do either one of you want to share out before we ask another question? Let's see.
Curtis, he responded in the chat.
Yeah. What did he say? I think he said.
All right. Great. And Anaya responded. Right. Naya, we didn't have time to. We were about to get into that and create the expression so that we have a clear understanding. So we were working our way to that.
So basically, she was saying the lesson wasn't done. I mean, it wasn't truly.
It wasn't. We only had
Snapchat of it. Yeah.
15, 20 minutes. My question to the students is, the way that the questions were posed to you, how did the questions help you understand what you were supposed to be doing? So the questions that the teacher asked of you, how did that help you to understand what you were supposed to be doing?
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, with me, I'm used to making expressions, and I'm used to algebra tiles. So like when I seen it, it wasn't like nothing new that I haven't seen before. But what I was kind of confused on is with figure 3, I didn't understand the pattern at first because I think it went from 8. I mean, it went from 6 to 8 to 10, and it was just like kept adding more, and that kind of confused me.
Got you. Okay. Any other students want to jump in and add to that? And add to what Curtis said. The questions helped lead me more into understanding the problem. Okay. All right. So.
But can I ask Curtis one question here?
Yes.
Because I just want to piggyback on your question to him. Is that did we help in that at all? In clarify his confusion by asking him more questions or asking more questions to other students? That's what I'm curious to know.
Yeah, that did help me. Cause I was kind of stuck at first, but then I think another student had went, and the way they did it, I did it differently, so it kind of helped me figure the problem out.
Okay, so our last question for the students, what's one thing that we could have done that would have made you more engaged and feel more part of the lesson? So what's one thing that could have been done differently that would have made you feel more engaged and feel more a part of the lesson?
I feel like if we had more time, and I'm not really sure how to edit on this computer how the other people did, but if I knew how to do that, it would probably be easier for me, because I was trying to do it on my notebook, and it was taking up time.
Okay.
And I agree with him. Oh, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I have a question for students. If I would like to hear at least two of them of an opinion about what do they think, how would be different if this lesson was done face to face, like in a classroom. What would they think of that? Just kind of their view online versus in face to face.
Before we kind of put that on the floor, I would like to hear the response to the last question that Kiera posed on the floor. I would like to hear the response to your question too, Mr. B. I'm curious, but I would like to just hear a couple more people. I saw that Fatima's hand was raised. If you don't mind.
Oh, fair enough, for sure, yeah. Of course.
And then we can move on to your question if that's okay. Everyone, I don't know what time it's at. Kiera, can you repeat that question again? So it's
Yep, the question was, what's one thing that we could have done? What's one thing that could have been done differently that would have made you more engaged and feel more a part of the learning?
Everything was alright except the Jamboard link that some of us didn't couldn't get access to it for some reason. So if we could have the Jamboard link from the before the lesson started, we could try it and save more time because we needed a lot of time. We needed time to complete the lesson, but we couldn't because there was interruption for because we couldn't access to the link. So I think if we was prepared before the lesson for that, it would be more easier. And otherwise, everything was so amazing. So.
And I'll add on, I see in the chat, having more time, but also to actually work on the problem. So I'm wondering if we could have started the problem earlier in the lesson and just given more time on the front end to work the problem for the students. Something that I'm wondering, because I see all of you are saying more time to actually work on the problem, so you wanted time to get in there and do it. But just keep in mind we had about 25 minutes, and so I'm wondering if that could have been a way to modify it. I think all the students.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I also like how now they're anxious to solve the problem. That's great. That is what we want our students to want to do. If the problem isn't done now, they want to see a solution to this, which is what we try to do with our students, is have them get engaged and curious to solve that problem. So that's happened, which is a good thing.
I agree. So I want to go ahead and get the students out of here, but I do want to open the floor up. I know, Mr. B, you had a question for the students. We'll open the floor up for a couple minutes for anyone that may have questions for the students before we release them. So, Mr. B, did you want to go ahead and...
Yeah. My question was about, to students. I'm curious, what would they think? How would this go if it was face-to-face? And how is it different versus virtual? So just their general feel and opinion about that.
Okay. And I see a couple of them have dropped in the chat. In person would be better, and I think face-to-face would be more engaging for us to answer and ask questions to solve the problem.
And you have hands as well, Kiera.
Okay. Whose hand is up?
Curtis, and then
Aja,
and Fatima.
I said in person answering. I don't know his name. I don't know how to pronounce it. But answering the man question, in person would be better for me. Just because it would be more physical. It would be better for me writing on the board, figuring out the problem like that.
Totally agree, Kurt. Totally agree. It's nothing like the board, the pencil and paper. I mean, totally agree.
I think in person would have been better because the teachers did bring up the algebra tiles, and I feel like being able to actually look at the algebra tiles and be able to work with them hands-on would have been better than doing it in person because, you could get a closer up feel and look at the problem from that point of view.
All right. And then...
Can I ask something?
Absolutely.
I agree with Curtis and Aja. For me too, I feel like in person would be better, especially the teacher and the student can make the connection. The teacher can see if the student actually paying attention, because in person, in virtual, as you can see, he was asking, "Are you guys along with us?" Or are you guys sometimes we don't pay attention, not participate because we're solving the question. You actually don't see it, are we doing it or what we're doing. So that's gonna be kind of easier in person. You can see everything clear and everyone gonna be more engaged, as they said.
Very nice. Do we have, or what other questions from the teachers do we have? Mr. Tucci, go ahead.
Yeah, Curtis had mentioned it earlier that it's technology related. I mean, I think everybody is probably in agreement that face-to-face situation would be better suited for, in general, for everything. But in this particular problem, especially for a number of reasons. But if everybody had the same technology accessible to them, then there would be there'd be probably a smoother flow of transition. There would probably be more accomplished throughout the course of one period together. But we're going to run into this, aren't we, with even now on these virtual Fridays, we're running into the situation where, for example, I have kids that, that are, their tablets have been either broken or they lost them or whatever the case might be. They never were distributed to them a year and a half ago. And so they're using their phones. And like Dr. B even said, she was using her phone earlier, and the phone just doesn't.
It didn't show breakout. I mean, the breakout room behind behind the main room. I could hear you, but could not see I was in the breakout room.
Yeah, so the technology aspect is really a big component here, I think, and especially in mathematics. I mean, I don't know what the other disciplines are experiencing.
But I will add, too, to be virtual for that many hours yesterday. Last year we had it like where it was 30 minutes and then a break, or it was 30 minutes every hour. But to have an hour long virtually, technology or not, it's just it's exhausting. To be stuck to. Oh my gosh, my back was hurt. I was like, what? We did this.
Hold on, Dr. B. I don't mean to interrupt, but I do want to get the students out of here and make sure that other teachers have a chance to ask questions, and then we can do our debrief and talk about kind of go into that conversation. So Ms. Williams, I don't know if I see your hand up. Did you have a question for the students?
Yes, something that Curtis said about the technology and also being able to write on the Jamboard. I agree with Curtis Lewis, the student, because if we were able to write on the Jamboard, if they were able to do that, then we could also, as teachers, see their thinking a lot better and see what they were thinking and how they were associating the patterns. So being able to use it, for everybody, if everyone was able to write on it, I think that would have, went a little bit smoother.
Nice. Okay. And then I see Anaya agrees, and then I'll take one last question. Aja, your hand is up. Is that an old hand, or do you have something new to contribute?
Oh, I just wanted to say about the virtual thing that I feel like just virtual in itself, not even just the technology, is an issue as well because of how long we were forced to do virtual for a year and a half. And I just feel like even if the lesson is fun and engaging, like if it was going to be fun and engaging just from the get-go, you're going to get a lot less responses because of how the students feel about virtual. We don't want to keep doing it. We're like, just how long we've been stressed about that brings us back up, but just be such a big problem for everybody. And it just really lowers the participation and morale of the group when you have to do it virtually.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So thank you for saying that's a great point. And that's, I guess, a great way to end it. I don't think we have any other questions from the teachers, students. Thank y'all so much for coming out on this Saturday and spending some time with us. We really appreciate you all. And then I'll connect with you all on Monday just to let you know what next steps are and whatnot. But we appreciate you all for coming out. You all are free to go and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll talk to you all later.
You guys are leaders. Anaya, it's beautiful. Curtis, Fatima, great job. Aja.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. We really enjoyed it.
I wanted to get my notebook out of the car.
All right, folks. So we are We have about 12 minutes left in today's session. I want to just give everyone else, I'm curious to hear some notices and wonders from the collective. So we'll do maybe a 3 to 5 minutes. Just what are some things that you noticed? What are some things that you wondered? We have those sentence starters. This is just an opportunity for us to support each other and talk about, the teaching that we just watched. So I'm just going to open the floor up, and you all can either come off mute or drop it in the chat. The only thing I ask is that is that we remember that this is a safe space, and that these folks, you all are good to go.
Okay, sorry.
No need to apologize. You're good. Just remember it's a safe space, and your colleagues just kind of put themselves out there and took a risk. So we want to support each other and be mindful of that as you give your feedback or give your notices and your wonders. So, anybody?
So I'll start real fast by saying, these students are not all in the same classroom. So usually when you teach your own students, you know them, you know what background they have, all that, because you build background first. And so, like when Fatima mentioned, you're confused with the tiles, all this. So I could see why she said that, because, our students would probably know algebra tiles before we would talk about them in the lesson. So I want us to not think that, that's usual, because most of our students will probably know, but because we would have introduced it to them. So when the 4 students here speak, they speak out of their own experiences. And so if they mention that they're confused about certain things that were introduced, it's because they're not really our kids that we're teaching. So I just wanted to mention that.
Courtney, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, do students need to know about algebra tiles to access this problem?
Not really, but somebody kind of got confused with that when they heard the algebra tiles and didn't know what they were. And that kind of put them at, not at ease, I think. They didn't really need to know. No.
Anybody else? Any notices or wonders? Specifically, I'm curious as to the questions. Like, that was one of the things we kind of focused on today, just question patterns and whatnot. Anybody else have something to share?
Right. Were we funneling? were we funneling, or what were we doing?
I did see some funneling going on, but I think that's probably because of the pressures of virtual and the time constraints. It's totally different when you're face to face, and we're also learning new techniques. But Mr. Tone, I did see you attempting to engage in some higher level questioning. Let me see what I wrote down. You said, "What do you notice mathematically?" And the student did answer. She said increasing. It went by 6, 8, 10, and those are all +2. So that was great that she independently came up with that answer. So that's the note that I came up with in terms of your interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great.
And when I came in, I was really surprised. I loved your real life example with the kitchen and the tiles, because it engages them in a way that, this is not just something they just made up to stump us. These are actual situations that you go through when you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, thinking in advance based on different situations, what are the materials that I need. So I really like that, and I'm definitely going to use that as well.
The why. Okay, I see Ms. Hall put the why. What do you mean when you say the why? Are you just saying that that's how it's related to?
Elaborating, because the fact that a lot of times kids do ask me why. Why are we learning this, Ms. Hall? And I can see myself going to Home Depot and maybe getting like one of their little
pamphlets or something from a home improvement team and asking them, well, if we had to remodel this classroom, getting the tape out for them to measure the floor and how many tiles will we need. That's a real life application. So, yeah, I can see that happening. So that's the only thing I was saying. The why.
Yeah, usually when I do these problems, I'm able to pull up, online, pick photos. So I would have had Lowe's picture and all of that. And we would have went through this, going through the scenario, making up a real life scenario.
Yeah, so it's 11:54. We got about 6 minutes left. I see Jan dropped in the chat. She said, who talked more? Jan, what do you mean? Can you tell us what you mean?
Yes, so I'm wondering if there was more teacher talk or more student talk during the lesson, and if it was skewed one way or the other, how could we skew it so that we have more students talking, or more of the time it's student talk?
I think one of the young ladies said if they could have had the Jamboard in advance, so maybe if this were a bell word question and they had some time to soak up and absorb the material as opposed to being asked on the spot. So again, this is a matter of timing. We know we're not in a real life situation as it would be in the classroom.
So I'm gonna add this in. I wholeheartedly agree that the Jamboard was an issue, but I'm gonna just say it at the beginning. There was a lot of teacher talk at the beginning. There was a lot of talking towards the beginning of the lesson, a lot of explaining, and once you all got into the problem around 11:20. That's when we started to notice the kids were talking more. So my question is, how do you, even if the Jamboard doesn't work, because let's be real, technology messes up sometimes. And when you're in the classroom, things don't go according to plan. Like, that's the point of the learning lab, right? Like, this was real life. Like, it may not be your classroom. You have better relationships with the students. But at the end of the day, this was very much so real life. And it's like, when that happens to you, how do we adjust? How do we plan for it, right? So the question is, my thing is, if we didn't really start asking them questions and having them talk until 11:20, how can we move that and push that closer to the beginning? Do we have to do a lot of front loading or explaining at the beginning, or could we have just given them the problem and let them start? Like, those are some things that I was wondering as I was watching it. Like, I get that they're not your students. I get that, I get that. Like, that's not lost on me. And I think that the teachers did a phenomenal job just engaging the students. But this was very much so a real life situation. And that's my question. Like, how do we get what we had at the end closer to the beginning? Like, that was one of the main wonderings that I had.
Well, I think, is Ms. Burleson, what I think is it depends on the kids and how you basically structure your class. I notice in my classes, I front load more on Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays and Thursdays, they're the ones doing it because they need an explanation or they need the background knowledge in order to go into beforehand.
Right. And that's one of my concerns, is that I work in the same building with Miss Burleson, and these kids and the way that they were articulating the problem was amazing.
So
it was amazing the way, I'm like, wow. I was really impressed. And I think that in my classes, I have 5 classes. I think I probably only have 1 or 2 students in each class that really, really care at that level to want to explore. And I'm like, I wish I had these kids in my class. I have one that just came out of Ohio. I paid her $20 to tutor the other kids.
I agree.
I hired her.
It's 11:58, and I do want to make sure we get folks out of here on time. Those of you that want to stay back and chat, you can. But this was our first time doing it, right? So what we want to do is bring when you say these kids, bring those kids to the PD so that we can practice and do a learning lab with them. Like, And here's the thing, like, this is something that we offer to the students. They get paid for it. Like, they get paid to come in here and collaborate with us. Like, we've asked a couple of teachers, but we haven't really gotten responses. And the thing is, if it's a genuine interest where it's like, how do I get my students to engage like this? Like, we want to provide an opportunity, right? So this is one of those opportunities. If you got kids at your school where it's like, hey, I really genuinely want to learn how I can help my students. If it's a genuine interest and it's something that you're serious about, then send their names to us. We'll reach out to them and we'll get them, we'll get the forms and the paperwork completed so that we can include them in this process. Like, we want to make sure that it's authentic, right? We want to eliminate excuses and reasons as to why we can't move forward and really try some real stuff.
No, I don't think that these are excuses. And Ms. Ambrose, what you're saying, I don't think is fair. I think that because every kid comes to school every day, they come every day. It's just that they have a different level of interest and understanding what they want to know. It's just that these kids may be on the pathway to engineering, where you have some kids that are on a different pathway. That's the only thing I'm saying. Is that, it's not about these kids, those kids. It's just that different kids have different interests, and the majority of the population at East English Village does not have a shared interest like this set of kids. So we're not making excuses. It's just that, and that makes me angry.
It's a fact. Because what you're saying, Ms. Hall, is it's a fact.
So let me stop for a minute and break in. And I want you to know that I met Curtis this past week when I was at Mary Grove, and Curtis is, and I'm gonna divulge some of his information. He's got a lot of credit recovery classes to take because he's not passing everything. He doesn't come to school all the time. So he is not the, this is a great kid and this is the kid that's going to participate all the time. That's not who he is. So, we want kids to come that represent our kids that we have in our classes so that we can have opportunities to learn and grow around helping our kids. And yes, there are different kind of kids all over the district, but we have to figure out a way so that we can lift them all up and move them all collectively. We want all of our kids to learn math and do well in math. And so we might have to learn new ways to do that or different ways to do that so that we can help them. If we teach one way, it might help all the kids that are doing really well. But what about these other kids that aren't doing really well, that are part of our kids as well? So I think the whole goal here is to bring kids in so that we can practice and learn and work with different kind of kids. So it's not a put down. It's not a it's not this happens and that happens. It's just that we do have kids that are different, and we need to figure out what we can do to help them learn math. And on that note, if you look in the chat, I did put the survey for attendance and the survey for feedback. They're in the chat, and I'm going to drop them in the chat again. So if you'd like to go ahead and fill those out, you are perfectly welcome to. If you want to stay and have some discussion, we can do that as well. And then otherwise, it is after 12. So if you are good, you are welcome to go ahead and fill those surveys out and have a great day. Make good choices. Stay out of all the wind blowing. While we were in the session, the basketball hoop outside my house fell and just missed the car. So be careful today.